Welcome to the Observeday podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. This November, as we recognize National Family Caregivers Month, we are joined by someone who has spent her life helping families navigate one of the most emotional and complex journeys, caring for loved ones with dementia. Kathi Miracle is a dementia expert, author, educator, and founder of Siva Tsunami Aging Info. With over 30 years of hands-on experience and a master's degree in gerontology focused on dementia and elder abuse, Kathi has devoted her career to empowering caregivers with clarity, compassion, and actionable steps. She's also the author of the upcoming book, Your Ticket to Compassion, Navigating the Dementia Experience, a guide born from both professional expertise and deep personal insight. Today, we'll explore how caregivers can protect their own well-being, prevent cognitive decline, and bring empathy into every stage of the dementia journey. Welcome to the podcast, Kathi.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I feel like I just set myself up because I'm not supposed to put the word D before D, and I was like, how do I say the D dementia? So it was it was a lot of D, and I was like, I was about biting my tongue at some point in time. Welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you've spent over 3 decades working in senior care. What
Yes.
originally inspired your passion for helping family and caregivers?
I've been asked that a lot, actually. And so when I was a little girl, my dad's mother died before I was born, and my mom's dad died before I was born. So I didn't
Sorry
have
to hear
two of
that.
my grandparents. Yeah. And then as I was growing up, my grandmother died 10 days before my 13th birthday. And then the following year, my grandfather died 5 days before Christmas. And so kind of a tough thing for a kid growing up to not have a couple of grandparents and then lose them, right before important celebrations. And so my parents said I just naturally gravitated to older adults, whether it was at church, whether it was in the grocery store, in our neighborhood. And I just developed a really great passion for it. I loved listening to their stories. They were full of such rich wisdom and just knowledge and experience. They saw things that I would never get to see. I mean, they saw World War II start. They saw the car be invented. They saw television be invented. I mean, there were so many things that they experienced in their lifetime that I just loved listening to the stories of it. And so when I got into college, I just really wanted to work with older adults. And then I was very fascinated by the dementia journey. So that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, you did your master's degree in gerontology. For those that don't know what gerontology is, what exactly is gerontology?
So the easy answer is it is the study of aging is what
Okay.
gerontology is. And then I specialized in focusing on studies of dementia and elder abuse.
Okay. Why, what was your bachelor's degree?
I had a double bachelor's in speech pathology and audiology.
I'm shocked.
You're shocked?
Yeah, because I was like, okay, maybe something, but then I was like, speech, that's just different.
It is different. I learned how, people learn how to, learn speech as we're growing up was, when we're little kids and we learn how to speak in our own natural language, our country's language. Then when there's problems with it, how do we fix it? Or if somebody's had a stroke, how do you teach them to learn to talk again? And then, of course, audiology is how the hearing works. And when that's damaged, what do we do about it? And I was told by my professors that realistically, I would work in the elementary school system for the first 5 to 7 years of my career. And that's not really what I wanted to do. I really wanted to work with older adults. And the college that I went to happened to have one of the top 10 gerontology programs in the nation. And so I was really lucky to go through it when I did.
Yeah. From your, I mentioned earlier that you've had over 3 decades helping caregivers and senior care. Was there a defining moment, or was it more of growing to the approach you use now? Which what I'm getting to is, was there a point where you realized that there needs to be more education and compassion in dementia care?
Yes, that would be my first job in senior living. When I was going through my master's program, I became a certified nursing assistant in a nursing home in Colorado. And back when I went through the program, that was back in 1991, I was taught how to bathe and dress and feed and transfer or evacuate a building. I was even taught how to change linens while someone was laying in a bed, and they didn't have to get up. But I was never taught anything about dementia, not how to approach, de escalate, redirect. And so I was assigned to the Alzheimer's unit at the nursing home, and I was hit and kicked and punched and scratched and thrown into a wall. My ribs were
Oh,
broken. And so I did it all wrong. And so in my head, as I was progressing through my career, I thought, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be, why don't you teach people how to interact and care for these individuals? And so as I grew in my career and began actually running buildings as an executive director, I did not want my staff hit and kicked and punched and scratched and thrown in a wall or get hurt in any way. So I created my own dementia trainings, which were ultimately approved by the Alzheimer's Association in Colorado. And then I started getting to speak at conferences and asked to train professionals, other professionals, and I gained a reputation in Colorado, in my area, of being one of the top dementia experts in the state of Colorado. And so it just kind of grew from there. But I wanted to make sure that one, the person with dementia got quality care, two, that my staff wasn't hurt and that they knew what they were doing, and three, that it was super important for us to continue to educate families and on how they could continue to interact with their loved one up until someone took a final breath.
yeah. Yeah, you just plunged into uh it's the department, and you're like, nobody gave me any manual of what am I supposed to do right now. And it was at that point in time you realize that, well, that's true, I'm supposed to know how to do this.
Mhm.
And that's what led you to say, okay, we need to talk about dementia. We need to talk about what to do, how to approach it, rather than just knowing what dementia is.
That's exactly it. I think that in the professionals that I do train, I talk a lot about how to be proactive and not reactive. And I teach families that. When I have the opportunity to work with families individually, we talk a lot about things that they can put into place, because when you're proactive, things tend to be a lot calmer and easier as they travel that dementia journey. When we're reactive, everybody emotions are running high. People are stressed out, they're overwhelmed, they're upset, they're frustrated, they're angry, and so emotions run high. And I don't know that we always make the best decisions as human beings when emotions are running high. So when we can identify things and be proactive in the care of somebody with dementia, it truly makes that path, that journey, a lot easier.
Yeah. Um your book, it's called your your ticket to compassion,
Mhm,
navigating the dementia experience.
mhm.
I'm curious, what inspired you to write the book?
Well, my husband, he's been bugging me to do it for about 8 years now. Um, and I have an assistant whose mom had frontal temporal, and I have a PR person who's amazing, and he worked in senior living. And so over about a year ago, they both started really bugging me that I really needed to share my knowledge and my wisdom with people more than who just know how to get in touch with me. Like if somebody had a book that they could refer to. The book is actually, I don't know if you have a copy of the cover of the book, but the book, I had oftentimes referred to the dementia journey like an unknown amusement park. Some days the ride is fun, some days the ride is scary, some days you get off the ride and you want to get sick, and there are days you don't want to go on the ride at all. So the
Yeah.
book is themed around amusement park. And so the front cover has like a roller coaster with a brain on it, and so I think that it really will resonate with individuals because there's so many twists and turns and unexpected moments when you're caring for someone with dementia, that I think aligning it with the experience we feel at an amusement park will really people will understand that better.
No, the title is called, Your Ticket to Compassion. I'm curious, was this the first choice, or was it more like
No,
shortlisted?
no, it actually was not. I think the first choice we came up with, or I came up with, was whirling through the storm. That was the first choice, and
Can you say that again?
whirling through the storm.
Wow.
Almost like a tornado, how you're whirling
Yeah.
out of control, whirling through the storm, and that was widely declined. Like the people who I talked to about it, they're like, "Oh, I don't think," they didn't like that. I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I'm not sure. We came up with a couple of other titles. I'm not sure. We played around with it, and when we finally landed on this was like the ticket means like your ticket into an amusement park. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
a golden ticket. And if you've ever seen the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's a big movie in the United States. And so in that movie, people got to win golden tickets to get
Yeah,
into this
Willy
chocolate.
Wonka. Yeah.
Yeah, so the ticket on the front of the book is like a golden ticket. So we kind of played off that a little bit.
Yeah. In the since you're making you're referring to the movie, in the movie at the end of the at the end of the movie, the boy, that was able to like stick with Willy Wonka to the end, got to win a prize, right? He had a ticket to access the tour. By the end of the day, he won the prize. If someone picks your book, what's the prize? You expect them to win at the end of the book after reading the book. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And you're asking some really great questions no one has ever asked me before.
Oh,
So
thank you.
kudos for the creativity. So I believe that the prize that people get is throughout the book, it actually helps people really walk through and organize their life. So we teach them in one chapter, like how to create like a, supportive network, binder kind of thing. In this binder, you may have an emergency binder. And if they click on a QR code, they scan a QR code, it will give them all the forms that they need to create this binder and how to walk through and do that. Like there are certain things, if your loved one goes, if they're going to the emergency room, there are certain things those paramedics or EMTs are going to want
Yeah.
to have to take with them. So if you're in a crisis, you're not going to stop to slow down to grab those for those individuals. But if you can hand them a packet of everything, they have what they need to get out the door and get someone to the medical care that they need. Other things might be like, another QR code they can scan is when we talk about one chapter talks solely about as a caregiver, you really need to make your care a priority. If you don't stop to take care of yourself and refill your energy, you'll burn out. And statistically, caregivers end up with far more health conditions than the person they're caring for. So they can scan a QR code on here's ways to incorporate into your busy schedule ways that you can take care of yourself 5 minutes here or 5 minutes there, because everybody seems to think it needs to be this big grandiose thing and it doesn't. So we find how to do this in little snippets. So throughout the book there will be different QR codes that they can scan, which will
Yeah.
take them directly to the forms that they actually need to have. I'll give you an example. Another form is if your loved one is going to the emergency room, does the person, the EMT or the paramedic, do they know anything about your loved one? They do not. So one of the forms that was created is a front and back where it has a picture of your loved one and just simple information like, do they wear hearing aids? Do they wear dentures? What do they like to be called? Can they transfer
Yeah.
on their own? Just simple things front and back that somebody could read in an ambulance and give to a nurse or a doctor in an ER, which can really help them understand how to take care of that person very quickly till their loved one can get there. No one's going to think of that on their own. And so they can scan the QR code. They have access to that form. They can fill it out. They can put it in their emergency binder. And now they're just that much more prepared in case something happens. So I think the prize along the way is they get really good, solid information. They have, if they join our membership group, they have access to me to email in, and I can answer questions, or one of my team can answer questions. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they've got solid, hard resources in their hands that actually will help them be able to care for their loved one that much better.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. We're talking about National Family Caregivers Month, and it's It's a month that's all about recognizing the heroes and heroines behind the scenes. As someone who has also worked as a caregiver and who's also advocating for specifically for dementia experience, what are some of the biggest emotional, practical challenges? Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observeday newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now let's get back to the conversation. Caregivers face today.
I think when you're caring, if you're a family caregiver, I think the biggest challenge that they have is the unknown. I mean, we say that when you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia. Two people can grow up in the same area, have the same kind of education, be exposed to the same kind of environment and the foods. They can both either go into the military or not. They can have about the same kind of profession work-wise. They can get diagnosed on the exact same day, and they will still take two different complete courses in the dementia journey. There's about 400 different types of dementia, and Alzheimer's just happens to be the most common form of it. And there's actually about 10 pediatric types of dementia. So when you look at caregivers,
So, when you say pediatric kind of dementia, what are you referring to?
that means there's about 700,000 individuals worldwide under the age of 18 that have a dementia diagnosis.
Okay.
So the youngest person worldwide who has been diagnosed with a form of dementia was 2 years old in Louisiana, United States in March of 2024. And so people always think that dementia is this disease that somebody older
Old
gets.
people.
That's actually not true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you think about, and there's some very rare types of a dementia too. So if a family caregiver is caring for a pediatric form or a rare form, there's not a lot of information out there to help them understand how to take care of that person. Even with Alzheimer's or frontal temporal or Lewy body, there's so much unpredictability of what's going to happen with that person. People live day to day, and some people live hour to hour. What worked yesterday may not work today. What doesn't work today may absolutely work tomorrow. So the caregiver is constantly having to problem solve and put out fires and change hats. And it's very exhausting. It's exhausting emotionally, mentally, and physically. And that's why I said if caregivers don't take the time to stop and take care of themselves, they will burn out.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the key words in your book is compassion. For me, I'd love for you to paint a picture of what compassionate caregiving look like in real life, not just as an idea, but as a practice.
The way I can explain that is when I used to hire, I ran a lot of memory care only buildings, and I would get compliments so much from families and people about the staff I had in my buildings, and they would ask me like, "How do you hire? Like, how do you find such great people?" And I would tell them, like, I can teach somebody how to bathe, dress, feed, transfer. I can teach them all the practical skills you need to take care of an individual. I cannot teach patience. I cannot teach empathy. I cannot teach love. And I cannot teach kindness. I can't teach any of that. So when I look for people and we asked questions during the interview, we asked questions around those concepts about tell me what it means to be empathetic, or how do you love somebody, or what does kindness mean, because when we have to approach this role with compassion, it's not the tasks that they can be taught, it's the things they can't be taught. And when I can hire to that, and when I would get some really great answers and some really great examples from staff around those concepts, I had a staff that came in first foremost. What they put as the priority is making sure that person had quality care and that we empathized with the situation and we approached things with kindness and patience, because all the other stuff will fall into place when you put those things first. And so that's easy to put together a team when you're hiring somebody from professional standpoint, it becomes a lot more difficult in a family setting because families, first of all, seem to think they need to take the weight of the world into their shoulders and that they need to do this all by themselves. And that leads to a lot of frustration and frustration on a family caregiver's part. I've seen husband and wives who they believe that if they don't do it by themselves, that somehow they're violating their wedding vows to love, honor, and cherish in sicknesses and health and in good times and bad. And so we had to redefine wedding vows for a lot of individuals. It also, you get a lot into family dynamics. And when you have family caregivers who were raised in a family that there may have been an alcoholic or abusive or something else going on in that family, it makes it really difficult for the family caregiver now to try to be compassionate to a person
Yeah.
who where they were raised in a really unhealthy
Yeah.
environment. So when we talk about compassion, that is going to be different for every single person based on their family dynamics and based on how they were raised and what their current situation is or what the relationship is with their family member. And so I talk about compassion because when you can approach this care with the empathy and the patience and the kindness and the love that we really want to, then it does make that the interaction between the person with dementia and you is a lot calmer. People with dementia can pick up on tension and they can pick up on tones of voices and body language and facial expressions. And when we don't mix in that compassion, um, caring for someone can be a lot more difficult. So, really, when I sit down and work with families, I tell families all the time, I ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions about the history because I need to know where you're coming from in order to help you go where you need to go and what direction
Yeah.
or what that journey needs to take.
Yeah. A lot of the times when people hear the dementia, for some reason, they just see, oh, wow, oh, it's those people that have dementia, right?
Mhm.
Especially if they don't have someone close to them that has dementia. Especially for people that are, young, you mentioned that they have this concept that, dementia is for old people. That's one. They also have this misconception that I feel sharp and agile. Dementia is not really something that will affect me when I get old. So nobody really pays attention to it. How early should we start thinking about brain health? And what are some misconceptions you encounter about dementia prevention?
Um, Okay, so I tell people, probably from the minute you start breathing, you should think about brain health. Of course, we don't. There are 7 components to protect and maintain cognitive health. So I think when we start becoming adults and we start making our own decisions, much like we hear a lot about education around diabetes or heart health. Um, Brain health is one of the last frontiers that we'll talk about. Science and research now tells us that we can identify changes in the brain up to 20 years prior to a dementia diagnosis.
Wow.
So that's a lot of time that could be really protecting and maintaining cognitive health. What we also know is that if people implement and consistently do these 7 things, which I'll mention here in a minute, um,
Okay.
that about 60% of people could avoid a dementia diagnosis. We know that we can delay the progression of dementia without the use of medications. And in certain circumstances, we know that we can reverse cognitive decline for individuals. So, the 7 things that I talk about and that I teach and that I help families implement is nutrition, hydration, um, sleep, getting oxygenated blood to the brain, socialization, managing stress, and brain training or cognitive exercising. Those are the 7 things that, if they are managed well and implemented and done consistently, a large percentage of individuals could avoid a dementia diagnosis altogether.
Oh, wow. Nutrition, socialization. Wow. Okay. Because usually most people just realize that, oh, dementia is dementia that happens. How do I put it now? You're like, oh, it's one of those things that you can't really do anything about it. If it happens, it happens. And I'm glad that, you pointed out now that, there are things that we can intentionally do ahead of time, to just make sure that our brain is healthy and no 60% chance that prevent their dementia. Thank you so much, Kathi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want you to speak specifically to uh, caregivers, families, people that have loved ones with dementia currently, right? And for a lot of persons, it's overwhelming because how can how can they find community and support, in this to go through this?
Uh, every area is different around the world. In the United States, we have several organizations like the Alzheimer's Association, the Alzheimer's Foundation. I know that there is an Alzheimer's organization in the UK. I don't know every organization around the world. I wish I did. But I would first and foremost tell families, make sure you get, I mean, when you hear that diagnosis, it can feel like a gut punch or it can feel like a ton of bricks just landed on you. And I know here in the United States, people will complain that the doctors give that diagnosis and hand them a brochure and say, "We'll see you in 6 months." And they're like, "What's going to happen in the next 6 months? I need
Yeah,
something now, not in 6 months." And so I usually will tell family caregivers, like, first and foremost, make sure your legal paperwork is in order. Because once somebody gets to a certain point where they're not cognitively able to sign legal documents, that becomes a problem. So that's almost one of
yeah,
your very first steps is to make sure legal paperwork or make sure you know what that person's final wishes are or their wishes to how they want to be cared for in later life. Because I have a lot of families I've worked with who do a lot of guessing. They never had that tough conversation and they don't know. And so they're just guessing. And that's an uncomfortable feeling for a family member when they're not sure and they're just trying to do the best they can. I tell families find your network, find who that is. That's going to be, your medical team. That could be people at church. That could be neighbors. That could be friends. That could be family. But you have to be able to, and on top of that, that might be bringing in professionals to help with home care. Um, but you need to know who your people are, and you need to sit down and really think about what are the things that you believe you can truly handle, what are the things you truly know you can't, and what are the things you don't want to handle. And so, like if it's a daughter, or a son bathing a parent, they may not want to see their parent totally unclothed, and it might be a dignity issue for their parent, for their child to do that. So if that's not going to happen, then someone else needs to come in and help with that. And so when you can make those lists and really be honest with yourself and identify, then you kind of know, okay, this is my responsibility. This is where I need help. I really don't want to do this. And so who's going to help with this, and does a professional need to step in? So when things are calmer and when a person can still communicate and say, these are my wishes or this is what I want, then as you're making decisions, you really know that you are honoring and supporting and maintaining someone's respect and dignity throughout the care of that dementia
yeah,
journey.
yeah. Wow, thank you so much for that advice. I'm curious. A lot of persons will be wondering, how does your organization, Siva Tsunami Aging Info, help families in this regard?
So we people can join our email list. We email out a newsletter once a month. We just started that, and so we want to make it more robust over the years, over our time doing this. But it's offering families little bits of information. So, like coming into November, we'll talk about how do you get through the holidays, with somebody with dementia. They can also fill out a contact form. I do a 1 hour free consultation for people to talk about their situation and help them identify, maybe some steps they should be taking. We offer online education courses where someone can, do it at their own self study. We offer class courses where you take all 6 of our modules, and each week there's a Zoom call with me for anywhere from 1 to 2 hours to talk about that specific module and can that apply to your specific situation. And then we offer private consultation with me where I can really dive into that individual situation and help build a supportive guidance network for somebody so that they are able to travel this a little bit easier. So we try to offer a little bit of everything. We do have a Facebook page. And so the goal of that was to kind of roll it out this last year. And then moving forward, we want there to be a sense of community for people to be able to feel like they can ask me questions or they can get really good information. And then we've been asked would we ever offer a support group, in person or virtual? So we are playing around with seeing how we can accommodate offering a virtual support group.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that recommendation. In a short while, I would ask you where our listeners can connect with you. But before we do that, I did prepare a list of questions for a quick lightning round. You ready?
I'm ready. Go.
Okay. What's one word that describes a caregiver's superpower?
What's one word that describes a caregiver's superpower? Resilience.
What's a habit you practice daily for your own meta-awareness?
Positive affirmations.
The first person you think of when you hear the word resilience?
The first person I think of when I hear what?
When you hear the word resilience?
Resilience?
Resilience, the word you just said.
Resilience.
Resilience.
My grandmother.
Okay. Why is that?
She's probably the strongest person I ever knew in my life.
Okay.
She overcame a lot of challenges as an individual and raising her kids, and she just got up every morning and kept moving, and she had a lot of faith in God and his plan for her life. She was an amazing role model. In fact, my daughter is named after her. That's how much respect I had for my grandmother.
Okay. What's the best advice you've received from a senior you cared for?
The best advice that I received from a gentleman, he was 102 years old, and he told me what I should be eating. He told me to eat lots of fruits and vegetables and to drink lots of water and get out in the sun every single day. And all of those are absolutely true. He would tell it to me almost he'd tell me, like, have you gotten out in the sun today? What did you eat today? He kind of stayed on me a little bit, but yeah, the best advice from a senior was to take care of my.
Wow. Okay. The last one is finish the sentence. Caregiving
is a multitude of things. It is challenging. It is hard. It is frustrating. But it's also very rewarding.
Is that one sentence or is that a
I
paragraph?
don't know. I think it's a run-on sentence.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathi. Where can we talk about Silver Age, Silver Tsunami Aging Info? Where can we go to, website where we can get access to all the resources you mentioned?
Yeah. So our website is www.mysilvertsunami.com. That's our website.
I'll be sure to put the link in the description and in the show notes so listeners can click and go directly to the site. Thank you so much, Kathi. It's been an absolute delight chatting with you.
Absolute delight chatting with you as well. Thank you.
Yeah. That's it for today's episode of the Observeday podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life's special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.